great place to be. I'm Harvey Lisker. I'll be talking this hour with Norman Maimey. Young gentleman's got so many credits to his name, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, the most recent thing that I'm putting together is this coming Thursday night at Pepperdine University. And what it is, I was commissioned by Pepperdine University to write a symphonic work for chorus and orchestra, which was a little different from me, being that I'm in the areas of big band and jazz and entertainment, and having been entertainment director for Shields and Yarnell for the past 7 years, going into my 8th year this month. So when they asked me to do it, I said sure, but not realizing what was really involved with putting together a real serious piece of music that could stand on its own with some of the better serious musicians, classical musicians. So I went to work, and for 2 months I literally went through thousands upon thousands of poems, because since it was for chorus and orchestra, it needed a text. And after going through Walt Whitman and Ezra Pound and E.E. Cummings and Shakespeare and you name it, I went through it. And I was never much into poetry, but I became very good at it after the 2 months. I came upon a poem entitled The Life of Love. Since this work was supposed to be between 20 and 25 minutes long, I had to find a text that would lend itself to that. I, in my mind, wanted to find something about the future of mankind, but the things that were about the future of mankind were either very sing-songy, or they were very short, or they went on forever, but there was nothing that would really lend itself. I was surprised that poets had not really written more about where we were going as a race of people. And so I came upon this poem entitled The Life of Love, and the thing about it was that it was very sensuous. It was the type of poem that could be listened to by either the layman or the poetic intelligentsia, and still be, I felt, appreciated by all, because there was, what should I say? It was easy to understand for somebody that was not in poetry, and yet it had tremendous underlying currents of symbolism within it. And so, unlike Shakespeare, that you're dealing with a bunch of wilts and forsooths, this had none of that. And I felt that the poem itself would lend itself to being scored. So what it's going to be on Thursday night, it's going to be The Life of Love, a symphonic concerto for chorus and orchestra. It's in 4 movements, and the poem itself is in 4 parts: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And I wrote a movement to each of those seasons. The poem is by Khalil Gibran, who wrote The Prophet. And it's going to be done by a 70-voice chorus, 65-piece orchestra, 135 musicians in all. I will be for this musician, and I literally, even when you go through school, you study the symphonies of Beethoven and so forth, but you study them from a standpoint of almost like an outsider. And the problem I feel with a lot of school is that everything is compartmentalized. You study your theory, you study your counterpoint, you study your orchestration, you study your history of music, and nothing flows from one class into another, really. Everything is, this is this, and this is this, and this is this, but we never really look at it from the standpoint of how everything integrates into each other. And so what I literally had to do is I went back and took out and studied the Beethoven symphonies. I studied a lot of Respighi, Debussy, Bach, and some of the, I even took some Hank Mancini scores, and and looked at what Henry had did in terms of serious writing. He did a lot of things for the Philadelphia Pops Orchestra, and so but between all these various classical composers and the other side of it, the pop and jazz composers, I came up with something that I found unique, but yet was not in the area. I could not say it's really in the area of pop music. It's more in the area of classical music. It's a tonal piece. It's not avant-garde, and that was a very hard decision for me, being that if the critics come and hear this piece, if it's not avant-garde, you're usually shot down by the critics. And so I had to, in the orchestration, make it such a monumental work that they could. I think anyone starting out for the first time in a new area of whatever, they're very concerned about what their peers think. I think they're very concerned about what a critic says. A critic can damage you after you've done it for a while, and you know that you can hold your face up in terms of whomever. Then I think that it really does not, as you say, you really don't give a damn. If you know that you're accepted by, and I'm not saying that I'm first time out in the areas of music, but the first time out in the area of serious music, yes, you start wondering. You have to wonder. You're going. It's like going into a room of people that you've never met before, and you feel a little insecure. You have to feel insecure.
I question myself. Critics, where it is, they decide to break it down, and I'm sort of critical of critics.
Well, I think that you're rightly critical of critics. I've always found critics, and I've heard this from more than one source, and to be basically, in terms of music, frustrated musicians that really never made it, or it's amazing the power of the critic. If I'm watching television and I'm watching at the movies, which is, I think it emanates from New York, and those two critics, Gene Siskel, and I don't know what the other man's name is, I can't think of it offhand, but a lot of what I go and see is determined by what they have to say. And we have, here in Los Angeles, a critic, he's quite good at the Los Angeles Times, Martin Bernheimer, but he is, you have to, the Times is not always very discreet in what they send him out to do. For instance, he's a very eclectic musician, and they had him go and review this last summer the Tchaikovsky Spectacular at the Hollywood Bowl, which in my estimation is wrong to have him go and review. He's of the avant-garde set, and he basically said, well, after I graduated there, I went to study with a number of people. Sammy Nestico, who you may know has done innumerable arrangements, a lot for Count Basie, and has been very active in the television and radio field. And studied with Peter Matz, who for many years was Barbra Streisand's arranger and does a lot of television and award shows and so forth. And Roy Rogerson, which not too many people know, he probably taught me more about music than just about anybody. He taught me what the word music means, and I learned so much from him. He taught me conducting. He was Johnny Mathis's conductor, and then he left for a long while to go to Europe and become went in partnership with Michel Legrand. Also, my piano teacher of many, many years. And let's see, who else did I study with? Paul Smith, the jazz pianist. That was the basis of my musical education.
Okay, when did you really get interested in music? As a child?
Yeah, at the age of 3, I think it was. my father tells me that he had taken me into a department store around Christmas time, and I was very sick. I don't know what I was doing with them out at a department store, and the thing was that I had never seen or heard a phonograph, and I just sat there fascinated by this instrument. And he said that I just sat there for like an hour listening to this thing and virtually got well listening to it.
That's what Louis Belson said. He went to a parade with his father. He was 3 years old. He saw a drummer, and he said, "That's what I want to be."
You're kidding.
No, exactly. And that's, I'm telling you, the stories that I get are just out of this world.
Well, I look back and think back to my childhood days, and I remember taking like a pool stick from a small little pool table and conducting the records. It would, and today I am a conductor. I've always enjoyed it. It's a great sense of fulfillment knowing that you are the focal point of all these musicians, and you through you they are creating the music.
And if they're not, you're going to hit them with the pool stick.
And you're I had just done actually the big song fest out at the Greek Theater that was for the University of Southern California, and I conducted the show and wrote the arrangements, and a lot of people of fine merit, like Hank Mancini and Percy Faith and so forth, had done this in the past, and so it was kind of an honor for me to be asked to do this. And then it was soon after that I was asked to conduct for Shields and Yarnell in Las Vegas, and being that I had not been in the areas of television or motion pictures, I was virtually scared to death because we were opening for Olivia Newton-John at the Riviera Hotel in 1977, I think it was. And so I remember going through the rehearsals, and you know, you're a little unsure of yourself when you first start out, and you're standing up there with 40 musicians that are some of the finest in the world, and I remember that opening night, I was like a ball of tension that was tight as you can possibly make it. My whole body was all tense, and I conducted the show, and Robert Shields came up to me after we were finished. He says, "That was fantastic." And it was like God had reached down and just pulled all this tension out of me. And it was at that point that I realized, you have arrived. To do their television show for CBS, and there were about 15 other major arrangers that were up for the part, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'll do it." And they said, "Well, go in and see Steve Bender, who's our manager, when you get back." And so I sat down with Steve, and he told me what the show was all about, and he says, "Now, there's a lot of other people that are up for it, but I like you, and if you want the job, it's yours." And so I walked out there virtually very uneasy about not uneasy, I should say. I was stunned, but I went in, I did the shows, and they came off quite good. They were nominated for, a couple of them were nominated for Emmy Awards, and from there, after doing Shields and Yarnell, I conducted for Anthony Newley in Las Vegas. In fact, I conducted for Anthony Newley and Shields and Yarnell at the MGM Grand. It was the first time that a conductor was asked to conduct both shows on the same program. And after doing Newley, we were asked back on CBS to do another set of, I think, 14 shows. And following that, I was asked to do Bob Fosse, some musical director for Bob Fosse's Dance in the National Tour of that, and I did that for about 6 months. And